Here's the reality about life. This is very unsatisfying, but it's good advice, which is a lot of your life is outside of your control, and you have to learn to accept what you can't change. However, a lot of what's going on in your life, you can change. And more importantly, we can change. Watching what you eat, exercising. Those are things that you can actively do that don't cost you anything. Putting in that effort, putting in that energy, putting in that thought, you can improve aspects of your life. Straight women are the raccoons of the dating world. They like to eat trash. I just made that up. All right, chat. Hasan Productions put out this video about the incel epidemic, and I feel like this really is what we're facing, which is, can we get men away from this algorithmic cesspit and collapse, that isolation partially caused by COVID, but also by the way social media and screens have engulfed our lives?
I gotta cover this insane home math guy, one of Asmon Roach's favorite content creators. Okay, so this person, Bailey Moon, responds to Ben M. Freeman, who says, "Do not vote for Zohran Mamdani." Now, when you look at where Ben M. Freeman is coming from, I don't even think he is a New York resident. Maybe I'm wrong, but in any case, this girl says, "Too bad I did today." As in,
this is like, okay, so I don't know if you guys saw this, but Bailey Moon 15 posted a picture of herself smiling, saying how she voted for Zohran Mamdani, and like the way her eyes and her smile and the little, like, this was psychosexual incel bait of the most intense degree. They lost their minds.
Voted for Zohran Mamdani. This caused people to lose their minds, okay? Including this guy. Homath equals psychomath. This is it, friends. This is where I come from. These are the fires in which my disgust was forged. The vacant stare, the Miss America smile, the trappings of middle-class conformist consumerism, the self-assured, momentary, tell me I'm pretty pose, clashing with the lack of effort and self-presentation, and the impatience of choosing an unflattering background.
You know, chat, you know, I lived in Japan, and I learned something that for Western culture is kind of a surprising and shocking thing. But basically in Japan, shame, familial shame, and personal shame are incredibly powerful motivators. And if a person humiliates themselves and their family so much that it's unforgivable, they have certain traditions that were practiced for hundreds of years, all the way through into the 20th century. And when I read Homath, I just can't help but think of those traditions and go, I would follow those traditions if I posted something like this. I cannot imagine a more pathetic, shameful, embarrassing message of all time. Who would be my assistant? Like, I honestly feel like I wouldn't need one. The amount of shame from this post is so extreme, I wouldn't need any assistant.
The smug, condescending delivery of the message. I have done what you wanted me not to do. All of it completely irrelevant to the topic at hand, forced awkwardly in front of it. Obscure.
Old Bobby, the Japanese have wonderful traditions. Some of them are wonderful, some not so much.
It, replacing it, upstaging it, or so she hopes. Standing between you and what matters, she says only, look at me. Look at the difficulty I've caused for you. Witness the joy that I can only derive from being your problem. This is not about politics. She doesn't understand them. She doesn't even think she knows better than you. She only knows that you can't tell her what to do. She doesn't even think she has power. She only knows that you have even less. And this is where she places her heart. When the bill for her foolishness comes due, oh, how her expression will change. No longer a bold and toothy smile. Now a pouting bottom lip. No longer a triumphant hand in presentation of her own radiance. Now, through the eyebrow scowl, arms folded, no longer an empowered, educated feminist, now a hapless princess in need. A real man pays the bill without asking. She offers nothing. She demands everything. She will never be held accountable for the destructiveness of her choices. She will be celebrated then as she is now, not for her contributions, but because where she is celebrated is where she will choose to be. She is the table, and the table is set, and she placed her order. And all that now remains is waiting to be served. I think we need to...
Before we go on, I want you to realize that that is a 41-year-old man posting under the nom de plume Homath. if I was empowered, if you said make Mike king of the day or chairman of the party of the day, that would be sufficient evidence for a permanent prison term.
And of course, the first thing they find is everyone wants to me. That's it. That's all that's in there. Ideas are interchangeable and everything just happens as a response to my sexuality. No, I think in your situation...
Bro, you literally made a post about how she was free from accountability for her actions and you made no effort whatsoever to challenge her takes.
Like this person's response to something that is not all that significant, like a silly response being taken super sincerely, it kind of does feel like you have some pathological sexual desire here. And she has no clue why we wouldn't want people like this voting, and she never will. They keep doing it. Even when you explain it, they do it again. It's literally, you cannot process the fact that there are many ideologies out there, none of them absolute, and everyone is entitled to their own. You've literally repeated your own ignorance. Now shut up and mind your own business. Yeah. She has no concept of maps and territories. If she could conceive that concept, she would explain, we just have different territories, and she would be right. But not for the right reason. My wife decides using feelings, then she uses her reason to justify the choice. Homath is a prolific misogynist. His tweets, I know, I'm familiar with Homath. I know. He's one of the he's one of the most insane. The problem isn't that he's insane. Insane people have always existed. The problem is there are other people just as insane that he has a career posting like this. I'm 40. Oh my God. I was 16 on January 1st, 2000. I spent 4 years in college, 6 years living in my hometown, and then 10 years in big blue cities. During that time, Gen Z women grew up and became, oh my God, he's 40. I did not know that. I think one of the saddest parts about this kind of shit is that like guys, young men especially, and even older men who are mentally stunted do not realize that these guys cannot give them any advice because they have no relevant experience in the field. So all they end up doing, all what these guys end up doing is basically just coddle these people. That's their entire goal. It's just coddling. It blows my mind that people people don't see it. Their purpose here is not to help you navigate the treacherous nature of interpersonal relations with the other gender. Okay, it's not about like teaching you how to navigate talking to women and find a lifelong partner or whatever. It's just about making you feel like, you know, you're not at fault at all. You've done nothing. You've done all the right things, and that women don't want to regardless, and not because of your stinky vibes, stinky demeanor, or just like literal stink, and because you're entitled to this and they won't give you what you were entitled to because they've deluded themselves into thinking they have any autonomy in this process. And all that does is teach people, mostly young men, and even some older men that behave like silly little boys, that there is no way out of this, that you should just hate women. You should just give up. They get really mad when your aesthetics don't match what they think of a leftist woman should look like. Ugly, unfuckable. Some fashion try to ask me out in an academic function. I always wear my wedding band. So I said no. He's not talking over me and interrupting me since then. It's exhausting in mostly male environments. I think that's part of the reason why I brick a lot of right-wing and reactionary brains as well, because they've like fancied themselves they see themselves as like beacons of masculinity, but they don't actually look the part. And these guys are lizard brain for the most part, and they despise it. There was this video from The Guardian on TikTok about that is about a guy who brought himself out of the incel pipeline and made me a bit hopeful.
Like, hey, we just want to be better with dating. We just want better social skills, right? And then before you know it, you're talking about like women.
I think one of the things that Red Pill, before this guy talks about Red Pill too much, one of the things that they do that is very effective is they're an empowering movement. What I mean by that is they move the power. No, I don't mean it's an empowering movement in a good sense. I mean an empowering in a bad sense. But just let me finish before we lose your shit. Okay, I'm not saying it's good. What I mean by that is the locus of control is in your chest. So like in the Red Pill movement, you can improve your dating by working out, getting better clothes, but also manipulation tactics and understanding women's psychology. Right? That's what people like about it, because it's almost a twisted form of self-help. Whereas the problem that a lot of the left-wing conversations about this stuff is we focus on an external locus of control, meaning men are becoming more lonely as a whole. Men are becoming more isolated. People are becoming more isolated. And we take the locus of control and we take it to the environment or the systems or whatever. So if something is an internal locus of control, you have power to do shit. That's what I meant when I said empowering. It empowers you to make changes to try to improve your life, right? Whereas a left-wing analysis of this shit talks about systematic effects, and to fix that, you have to change the system. Well, you're just some guy. So if somebody tells you it's not your fault, that doesn't feel good. That's not enough. People want something to do to actively push back against the problems in their life. And this is where the left is not succeeding. The left needs to create internal locus of control. Yes, we all acknowledge that material reality is what affects us. Yes, we all acknowledge that all of us have systems and histories and things that are, and structures that are outside of us and affect so much about our lives. But what we really need to do is build up those internal, we need to give people something they can do to improve themselves. And that's actually what I like about Hasan. Hasan talks about how everybody could be a 7, right? Now, I think that's a little bit generous. I think everybody could be a 6. 7 is a pretty high number. But what he's really trying to say is everybody, if you work on yourself, work on your style, you work on your hygiene, you work on having passion, you work on your social skills, everybody could be a 6 or a 7. Like learning how to cook is a great thing. Like having passion, working on your social skills, having hobbies, gaining personal style, working out, taking care of yourself, you can really improve your attractiveness to other people. And also being empathetic, being thoughtful, learning to have conversations. Me, it's work. You know what really hurts me is I am very much, I don't give a fuck too much. I'm a little bit too, some people would say arrogant. I would say overconfident. So I've been trying to reel my shit back in. And I'm very opinionated, which can rub some people the wrong way. I have that autistic or ADHD trait where I want to rush past small talk and get to like interesting conversations about people's thoughts and their values and their beliefs and their experiences and their opinions. Like I want to learn about you, but I think but in order to do that, you have to build rapport first and trust. And you have to demonstrate that you're normal. And I think for me, I'm a little bit of a bruiser in conversations sometimes. So I'm working on, I'm working on being a little bit less arrogant. Small talk is actually important, but it is boring.
Men are dogs and you need to train them. When I was 17, I fell down the red pill pipeline and I managed to get myself out about 5 years later. The term red pill comes from the movie The Matrix. So it's basically saying that you have a truth or knowledge no one else seems to have. They would say that society is gynocentric, which means that society caters to women, that women only want the top 20% of guys. And this isn't true.
The only people who believe this legitimately do not know any women.
So I would say at 17, I was socially awkward, very introverted. I felt I was ugly in high school. So I went on YouTube and looked up tips regarding dating and women.
The thing is, this kind of stuff works very well for an audience that has given up on existing in the real world. And as we spend more time on the internet, and as stuff on the internet now has the capacity to change the way we see the real world more and more, those guys dominate, even if they never go outside. That's a big problem. That is a major issue. In any case, sometimes it's okay to engage in a little bit of social ostracization towards people who are demonstrating socially maladaptive behavior. Writing a long screed about a woman for posting a selfie about herself saying she
voted for someone as well.
For Zohran Mamdani of that, if you see a random girl online saying, well, I did vote for Zohran Mamdani, okay, against a post that was demanding that people not do that, and you write multiple paragraphs, yeah, that's not normal behavior. That's objectively abnormal behavior. And I think it's important to call it out. It's very strange. It's very strange to get offended at calling something like that out. And it goes back to the same cycle of demanding coddling. I think everyone has the capacity to rehabilitate themselves and change. We're in the process of watching someone literally go through the motions of doing so, okay? Just as the sense of community building plays a formative role in capturing the attention of these young men, preying on their insecurities and pushing them further and further into this black-pilled environment. I think a little bit of pushback is necessary so that some of these guys understand that their positions are wrong. I think belittling works very well. The reason why it works very well is because it actually robs you of the power that you think you have. Because if people were to fear what that person is saying, then they're left with the notion that, like, oh, I'm doing something right because these people are negatively polarized against me because they fear me, because they fear the truth. If your goal is to shame these people a little bit, I think that hurts a little bit harder. But make no mistake.
But I thought, wait, why is his life suck so much? If he understands women so well, why does his life suck so much? Why isn't he able to entrap a beautiful woman with all his manipulations and understanding of female psychology?
My ultimate goal always has been,
I think the main thing, the best piece of advice I ever got is unironically because I have 3 sisters. Basically, my dad told me, treat them like a human being. And that's it. I never treated women or girls like a girl. I saw them as, I didn't put them on a pedestal and I didn't look down on them. I just treated them like human beings, had conversations. That's it. Like, it's this like idealization and objectification that it's just like, why?
to show an alternative vision, to show that there is a different path.
And it eventually led me down this deep, dark hole. It was able to kind of take the weight of blame off of myself. Like, actually, women are the ones in control. You're actually the victim in this situation. It's a very appealing thing to be the victim. I didn't view it as like, I've got to put them down type of thing. Like, it was saying that, hey, we understand why you feel bad. If you just learn what we have to give you, you'll be the one winning here soon. Before you know it, you're commenting, you're reading more of it, but at the same time, you're distrustful of the women around you. You're distrustful of people around you because you think they don't know what you know. It just degrades your own mental health. You start, without even realizing it, isolating yourself. I actually felt really embarrassed if people caught me, which kind of is a telltale sign that's probably you should be watching it. I first started questioning my beliefs when I went through a breakup. Me and a friend of mine, we went to a cabin party. I started crying in front of one of the girls who I liked there. This girl responded rather with like shame and disgust that the red pill told me that they would react. She was actually like really kind about it. And that kind of made me think, what if I'm wrong? And then afterwards, I was bar hopping with a group of guys, and a few of them were red pilled. It was the first time actually meeting other red pill guys, and I could just kind of see how bitter and angry they were.
There it is. There it is, dude. That's when
I think that we've all had these phases in our life where we felt bitter or we felt angry about the world around us and how unfair shit was, and we, as I said before, we try to give you that external locus of control. And here's the reality about life. This is very unsatisfying, but it's good advice, which is a lot of your life is outside of your control, and you have to learn to accept what you can't change. However, a lot of what's going on in your life, you can change. And more importantly, we can change. So it makes sense, like watching what you eat, exercising. Those are things that you can actively do that don't cost you anything. Like, you could go and do body weight workouts in the fucking park for no money. And that will increase your health. That will improve your health and your fitness and your appearance. Now, is that the best way to work out? Is that the most efficient way to work out? No, it's not. But putting in that effort, putting in that energy, putting in that thought, you can improve aspects of your life.
The internet world and the real world collide, and you realize that behavior that is rewarded in the...
Start in the kitchen, learn to cook. Yeah, I mean, if you have the means, learning how to cook is an incredible life skill. Preparing yourself meals, cooking for others it could be a way of bonding with other people. You know, everybody likes a good cook.
Circles that you're normally in on the internet, when matched against real world experiences, all of a sudden it creates that sense of shame.
This one guy, and he was trying to do pickup techniques. It was obvious that the girls weren't liking it at all, but he kept getting more and more aggressive. I'm like, is this how I see the world? And it kind of disgusted me. I feel very guilty and ashamed because it's just like, you really thought that, man? Like, this is totally unnuanced. The reason I say it's compared to a cult, they don't like outsiders. They don't like outside thought. A lot of the comments started also sounding the same too. There was no original thought. There's a lot of, you guys make me feel like I'm at home, complaining about women, reappeal the 19th. That's the amendment that allows women to vote. There was a lot of rage. I have a mom, I have women friends, so I would be kind of like, I don't want to take away their rights. And then over time, they got really disgusting. I don't feel comfortable saying some of the other stuff I saw, just vile, misogynistic comments. That was another thing that helped me realize my beliefs in the red pill were wrong. When I first started to decide to actively stop watching red pill content, it was like flooding my feed. I would just click not interested, not interested. But regardless, they just kept appearing over and over. So yeah, it took me roughly about a year. I'm on ex-red pill forums to help other people out like I would have helped me out. Helping others too is kind of maybe a way of like rectifying it. So something I wish that someone would told me when I was in the red pill, not everyone who tells you that you're right is your friend. I feel like content creators in the red pill, they don't believe sincerely what.
Yup. Nailed it. And it's so funny because like, if you have any social experience, any normal social experience as an adult, you instantly clock these guys as being deeply insecure. And I mean the content creators. They are always putting on a front. This bravado, this machismo, or what they claim is like masculine energy is a show. It's pure theater. And it's actually making up for what they feel, what they are insecure about. It's all fake. And there's never been a moment where I've seen any of these guys and thought, wow, that's a real confident guy. It's super performative. And it's ironic because it's much more performative than what some people on the internet call like performative males.
They say, and they're only saying it to get money and time out of you. Feminism is not bad. It's required in today's society. Also, men and women have different preferences, and sometimes you won't meet them. That's nothing personal. I think community is the solution for this. The isolation and self-involved nature of these is what's leading people down these rabbit holes. There are still lots of men, especially young men, who are being introduced to these philosophies. And if I can avoid anyone from feeling the loneliness and rage and isolation I felt when I was that young, that's a win.
The one thing about my life is I have always been friends with women and girl. When I was young, I was friends with girls and boys. When I was as an adult, I've always been friends with women. A lot of my favorite people on this platform are mostly women. And I could tell you, as somebody who has been pretty successful dater for what I've got and is a happy relationship, women are not just dating the top 20% of men. All right, like I'm sorry, that's just not true. That's just not true. That's just not fucking true. I've seen short, fat, unemployed dudes dating women way more attractive than them, way more intelligent than them, way more career, successful than them. Like, what the fuck? Women are the raccoons. Like, straight women are the raccoons of the dating world. They like to eat trash. I just made that up. So anybody telling you women only like the top 20% of men is wrong. That's just not the case.